people of the Philippines vote for a new president on Monday, they'll be asked to think again about a family they drove out of power more than 30 years ago. Then Ferdinand Marcos was branded a corrupt dictator. Now his son Bongbong is the front runner in next week's election. Our Southeast Asia correspondent Jonathan Head reports.
She's a sitting vice president with a fine record of public service and no taint of corruption. On paper, Leni Robredo should be a dream candidate. Yet throughout this election, she's found herself trailing far behind the front runner.
People are saying this is among the most passionate campaigns ever seen in the Philippines. Thousands of these people have taken time off work, trying to narrow a lead taken by her rival is a man with a name, once a byword for greed and brutality, that ought in theory to make him unelectable.
I must soar above the turbulence.
It's been 36 years since President Marcos and his notorious wife Imelda were driven into exile by what's known here as the EDSA People Power Revolution. Now their son Bongbong wants to reverse history and retake the presidency. He may lack his father's charisma. The cheering here is as much for the entertainment that comes with every Filipino campaign. Yet he's way ahead in the polls. One reason, his alliance with this woman, Sara Duterte. Like her running mate, she's riding on the name of a famous father, the current president, Rodrigo Duterte.
If I'm going to put a number to it, at the very least 50% of how he's gotten this far. The Duterte machinery is strong. He's a well-loved president. So you cannot preach discontent. The people are not discontent. They're happy with the guy.
Amazingly, even here in Edition Hills, Manila, where several local men were shot dead during Duterte's violent drug war. Elizabeth Desvaro's son Michael was one of them. But she says she doesn't blame the president. And something else has swung this and many other poor neighborhoods firmly into the Marcos camp. Fantastic tales of his father's era circulating on social media, of living in crime-free bliss, and of vast wealth, not stolen, but kept hidden to be returned to the people.
We know that Marcos deposited the Philippines' money in an offshore account. It was not under his name. He was just the signatory. If Bongbong wins, he can get those funds back for us.
The title is Why They Deposed Marcos, a mini documentary.
Fatima Gal has been studying the pro-Marcos social media campaign. From its start several years ago, she's watched it swell into a torrent of craftily edited videos recasting the Marcos era as a golden age of prosperity.
I think it was a perfect storm for the Marcoses, not only because they have that wealth to wage this information, war against the Filipino people and in Philippine history. It's also about the failure of the post-EDSA administration that really built that resentment, especially among the lower economic class, because the reformist government failed them, didn't really improve the situation.
Leni Robredo's supporters have been going door to door across the country to try to challenge the seductive Marcos narrative that now dominates social media, to see if they can change voters' minds before next Monday. It's a spirited effort, but they're running out of time. Jonathan Head, BBC News, Manila.
Well, the BBC's Krishna Vaswani is also in Manila following the election there, and I asked her a little earlier what Bongbong Marcos' plans were if he wins the presidency.
He's been short on detail, Tim. I think it's fair to say there's this message of unity, a narrative of unity that he has been talking about in the lead up to the elections. And as you saw there in Jonathan's report, the use of social media as well has been very effective in this sort of remarkable image makeover or transformation, if you will, of not just Bongbong Marcos, but of his family. We've got to remember that this is the son of a strongman, somebody who was overthrown by massive street protests out here in the Philippines in 1986. People power protests that then frankly set the tone for similar protests across Southeast Asia. And today, overwhelmingly, if the polls are to be believed, this is the man that Filipinos, a lot of them, want as their next leader. Now, I think one of the reasons why is because of the fact that he is projecting a message of positivity. This country's come out of the pandemic. It's trying to claw its way back economically as well. It suffered a great deal. Businesses shut down. Children didn't go to school. And I think people are a bit fatigued with all of that. At the same time, Bongbong not doing presidential debates, refusing to do any interviews, controlling the narrative, it's been a very effective campaign strategy.
He's talking about putting a cap on rice prices, I think, as well, which would basically halve what they are at the moment. On a wider economic level, though, he's close to China, isn't he? And what would that mean geopolitically?
Well, geopolitically, it would be a little bit more of the same, Tim. As you well know, the current administration of Rodrigo Duterte has walked that fine line between the United States and China. And when President Duterte came into power, he very famously did say that he was going to run the Philippines for the Philippines, to make the Philippines great again, borrowing a phrase from another American president, of course. That put that relationship with the United States in a sort of a delicate situation. Having said that, despite the incursions in the South China Sea, the relationships between the Philippines and China has improved, partly because I think this country knows, or the people who run it know, that they need investment from China in the form of foreign direct investment. That's been a big theme as well. But in terms of real economic details and economic plans, there haven't been that many key platform or campaign messages in this campaign. Bongbong Marcos choosing instead to focus on the idea that he's going to bring the country together in that message of unity.
Karishma Vaswani reporting there from Manila. Plenty more on the run-up to the elections there, of course, on the website, and indeed all the other stories on this bulletin at BBC News.